1025 and 1063 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
And a good Friday, everybody. Welcome into the DDC 1025 1063 The Game. Chase McKay, Willie Daunic with you today. Darren McFarland with the day off. He'll be back on Tuesday. Nick Keyser behind the glass. Willie D, how we doing?
Hello, Chase. Happy Canada Day to you.
Yes, happy Canada Day for those of our friends up north, as we'll celebrate July 4th on Monday, Canada Day today. So it's also Bobby Bonilla Day. So happy Bobby Bonilla Day.
Oh, yes, good old Bobby. Collects a nice little check today. He gets some green, as he will every July 1st for the next
13. I think it's 13 years he has.
Is it
left.
only? Are we down to 13?
Yeah.
I thought maybe single digits by now, but no, still good ways.
It's
Well done by Bobby. I remember my first Canada Day though, Chase. I had no idea. I was playing for the Medicine Hat Blue Jays, and I didn't realize that they had Canada Day. And we get out there, and it was all this big ceremony. I was like, what's going on? And so I didn't learn about Canada Day until I was out of college. So if you watch the Blue Jays play today, they're probably wearing red uniforms in honor of Canada.
I like that. That's cool.
I think they're up there. I think Caleb Joseph, our buddy, is actually on the call for this series, either in the booth or in the studio for Sportsnet. He's continuing to, and I think he's gonna be well on his way to be an outstanding Major League Baseball broadcaster. He's been joined up and doing some series with the Blue Jays, who are a very good team. And so he's up there. They're playing the Rays this week.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I think we all knew that Caleb would have a future in this.
Yep.
When you guys started interviewing him all those years ago, but good for him, and happy to see him starting his next career, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
The
last
Braves
night
finally lost, Chase. Thank
did.
you to the Phillies for the Mets lead has had some shrinkage, man. It's like George Costanza in the pool in the Seinfeld episode.
it's shrinkage.
I was in the pool.
I was in the pool. And now the Braves will head to Cincinnati and open up a series against the Reds starting tonight.
Yep.
But yeah, look, it's been a good June, so I'm not going to complain too much. But yeah, 14-4, the Phillies just throttling the Braves last night. So it is what it is. You move
the
on.
Phillies on a given night, they can hit. I mean, they can explode, and they did. Ian Anderson has been a little bit of the weak link right now for the Braves. They've had pretty good pitching. I mean, obviously, you go 21 wins in a month, you're getting really good pitching. But he's been a little less than himself, don't you think, for most of the season?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can see some guys taking a turn, into the second half of the season and turning it on. They're going to need that. Now, you've obviously had some guys that have been playing well as of late. I mean, Adam Duvall, one of them. I think Dansby's had a really good season. But, they're going to need more out of pitching. That's for sure.
Yeah, Dansby is going to be an interesting one. We mentioned this yesterday, but he happens to have the same agent or agency that represents Freddie Freeman, or did represent Freddie Freeman. Of course, that's the story this week, that he's going to change agents after all of the drama that went on, and then a report that came out the other day that the agent did not even allow Freddie Freeman to have knowledge of the Braves' final offer. He just sort of let it lie, and then the Braves pivoted and went to make the deal for Matt Olson, which effectively ended negotiations. So all kinds of drama there. But Dansby Swanson's having an all-star season for the Braves, and he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm not going to make any predictions anymore about Braves re-signing.
You're not going to go out on that limb?
No, not going to do it. If Darren was here, he'd laugh and would agree with that. But I did that with Freddie Freeman because that just made absolute, the most sense that he would end up re-signing, and he didn't. So who knows what's going to happen?
Well, here's one thing I want to. Yeah, I think. Look, he's a good shortstops defensively that can hit some, are hard to find, And I'm sure people will always say, well, he was the first pick in the draft. If you look at the first pick in the drafts every year for the last 30, 40 years, the draft started in 1965. I think you'll find there's a lot of guys on that list that never turn into anything. There's some famous or infamous people that never made it to the big leagues. And some other guys you're like, man, that guy was the first pick in the draft. So while Dansby Swanson maybe not a superstar, he's a solid player that's going to be playing this game a long, long time. I think he probably deserves to make the All-Star team, and he's going to get himself a really nice contract with somebody, and I think it will be the Braves. I mean, that's where I would think he wants to stay. He grew up in that area. So we'll see how it plays out. I did want to mention, too, I'm down in Birmingham, Chase, for this travel tournament that we're playing in, the Knights 16U Platinum team. We got to play at this real historic park yesterday, Rickwood Field in Birmingham. And I didn't know much about it until I went there. They have a little museum. It's unbelievable, the history that you see when you walk in. It's a great old park. It's been open since 1910. They've done some things, with chairback seats and some things to keep it up. The field's still in pretty good shape. They filmed the movie 42. But a representative from the park came up to our team yesterday. We lost the game. We played against a really, really talented team full of Division I commitments from Florida. But we played well for most of the game. But a guy came up and he said 181 Hall of Famers have played at Rickwood Field.
That's
181.
Cool.
Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, all on down the line. 181 Hall of Famers. That is really something.
That what a stat. That's awesome.
How about that stat? That is big time. So that was pretty cool to be able to say you played at that park, Rickwood Field in Birmingham. If you're ever down here, I'm sure a lot of people have been down here many times and didn't even know about it. It's just off the highway when you come through. It is worth stopping by and just taking a look. It's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. I'm glad you're enjoying that experience, and Mahoney's enjoying that as well. That's neat. The Predators made a little move yesterday, trading Matthew Olivier to Columbus and acquired a fourth-round pick that was originally Toronto's in this upcoming draft next week. So an interesting move, but not super surprising because I think with Tanner Jeannot coming on like he did, there wasn't really a spot for Matthew Olivier, and he played some for the Predators this year, but it wasn't like it was last year with the formation of the herd, which he was originally a part of.
He's an original herdsman.
He is an original herdsman.
Always will be.
And a good guy. I mean, I really like Matthew Olivier and wish him nothing but the best. But David Poile making some moves and acquiring some draft capital.
I don't know about you, Chase. I was pleasantly surprised that they got a fourth-round pick for Matthew Olivier, who basically last year was an odd man out. Now, what people may not have realized last year is he had a pretty significant hip injury that kept him off the radar for a couple of months. And by the time he got back, he was sort of playing catch-up. So I do think Matthew Olivier, fully healthy, will be a nice addition for Columbus, especially if they're looking for a little protection, shall we say, for a very young roster. They've got some very, very good young prospects that they're hoping will collectively get better over time. And so it helps to have somebody who can protect them. But Matthew Olivier for the Predators, when you started looking at the emergence of Michael McCarron, who's got maybe a little bit more to offer in terms of skill. He's a center. He can win faceoffs. He also can drop the gloves. Now, Matthew Olivier arguably might have been the best fighter straight up of any of them. But if you want to have McCarron in your lineup, plus obviously you're going to have Tanner Jeannot and Yakov Trenin in there, having Olivier there was a little bit of a luxury. And I think you're trying to clear up not just, Olivier didn't make a whole lot of money, but you're clearing up a roster spot to hopefully make the addition or two that you're looking for. Have a little bit more roster flexibility. and you get back a 4th-round pick, and who knows? I mean, maybe that's the volume of picks is what you're looking for, right? The more picks you have in the 1st through the 4th round, the 5th round, you might end up with a player down the road because of it.
Yeah, and the roster, the roster spots, that is interesting because, Cody Glass re-signed, so you figure that even though it's a two-way contract, they're going to want him to figure into their plans this year.
It'd be nice.
And I mean, I think that is the hope, that he is a part of this team at a training camp. But, I think it's also what are some of the other moves that they're going to make. I definitely don't believe they're done trading. Whether Forsberg gets re-signed or not, which, we talked to Elliott yesterday. Elliott seemed optimistic that it would get done based upon people that he's talked to, that, teams telling him that they felt that Forsberg would re-sign with the Predators. It would be 8 years, about 8.5, somewhere in there. TSN's Darren Drager, though, has reported that the sides are, still far apart. There's still a gap with things. So, I mean, again, this is what you hear this time of year. It's got to play out. I'm starting to feel more and more like it is going to get done. And then the next move is going to be David Poile making trades and potential free agent signings to make this roster better.
Yeah, we're gonna throw out a number of different things that are on the horizon here. There's been some really interesting proposals put out there. There's the unrestricted market. There's the restricted free agent market where we saw the Kevin Fiala deal born out of. There's straight up trades, people that might be on the trading block based on salary cap limitations for some of the teams. But, yesterday was interesting because we had Elliott on. He had been giving that nugget of information out on the other show that he was a part of yesterday, Jeff Merrick's radio show up in Canada. And so he went into a lot of detail with us on his optimism around the league from the people he's talked to. He thinks the consensus in it will get done. Drager less optimistic, but I think when you put the two together, it still makes sense. I think both of them have accurate information. The two sides are still not where they need to be, but I think the sense is, I think Elliott put it well. We'll play the clip a little bit later, but basically Elliott was like, either nothing is happening and it looks dead, or you get a vibe that things will get done eventually. Because if you're another GM and you really want to dive in there and be ready to make a move, you want to feel like your time is worthwhile. And I think the consensus of people telling Elliott is, I'm not really going to go there because I think eventually he's going to sign back with Nashville. I thought that was valuable info.
Yeah, I did too. So we'll play that a little bit later. But coming up next, we're going to talk to Robbie Stanley, one half of Robbie and Rex Road. We'll get his thoughts on the Olivier trade, the Forsberg situation, and everything looming for the Nashville Predators as you listen to the DDC here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game Nashville app.
If you're on the road between downtown Nashville,
they're still in good shape to make the playoffs,
and I-840,
players make it clear they don't want to be somewhere anymore.
There's a new way to hear all your favorite shows and sports programming on 102.5 The Game.
I go back to that play and I shake my head. What I was worried about is that they were still just going to keep the goal.
It's 106.3 FM.
Think about all the good Titans teams.
This is very much so a run-first offense.
Now you have two choices to hear Nashville's best sports talk. Check out 106.3 now and add it as a favorite.
Hi guys, it's Andrew with Hillside Medical Clinic. Is erectile dysfunction damaging your relationship? Are you sick of the pill and all the side effects? Well, welcome to the future. We have a major medical breakthrough. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most advanced form of wave therapy. Backed by 60 clinical studies, our technology uses pressure waves to repair and open up blood vessels. We've helped countless men get rid of their ED. But what is the true end result? Their relationship, even their lives, improve drastically. If you're ready to regain your love life, call us right now, and not only will the assessment and ultrasound be free, we'll also give you a gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. It almost never fails. This is worth $550, and it's free to callers right now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and experience what I call the happiness ripple effect. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now, 615-576-5000.
Hey, Willie Daunic here. Are you feeling the sting of higher interest rates and higher costs? Those credit cards and other loans are costing more and more every month, and inflation is making everything else more expensive. Your home can save you right now. Your home's value is up, and there's a ton of cash in it, and you can access it with Loan Pronto. They specialize in zero-cost cash-out home refis. Get tens of thousands in as little as 2 weeks. And yes, VA loans are eligible. With a VA loan, you can access up to 100% of your home's value. So pay off high-rate credit cards and other loans. Consolidate everything into one super low payment. People who do this usually cut about $800 or more from their monthly budget. So if your home mortgage rate goes up a point or so, it's offset by your credit card rate going to zero. So call Loan Pronto and unlock that equity and wipe out the bad debt. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Ever wonder what toys do when people aren't around? With the Nashville Symphony performing the score live, Disney Pixar's Toy Story answers that question with a fantastic, fun-filled journey, viewed mostly through the eyes of two rival toys. Woody, the lanky, likable cowboy, and Buzz Lightyear, the fearless space ranger. Toy Story in concert with the Nashville Symphony, July 8th through the 10th, including a Sunday matinee performance. Presented by Disney Concerts. Get your tickets now at NashvilleSymphony.org. Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Their service and parts team will get your work site up and running in no time. Parman Tractor and Equipment will come to you for service if needed. Visit ParmanTractor.com for more info. Your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer, providing totally outrageous customer service.
I love this show.
Never miss a moment of the show.
Okay, all right, okay.
Subscribe to the DDC podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to the DDC.
Presented by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling.
On ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and on the Game Nashville app.
Little Dr. Feelgood bringing us back. Great show last night at Nissan Stadium with Motley Crue. Unfortunately, Poison couldn't play, but Def Leppard, Joan Jett. Back here on the DDC, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McKay, Willie Daunic with you. And let's say hello to Robbie Stanley, one half of Robbie and Rex Road, mornings from 6 to 10 here on The Game. And Rob, David Poile already making some moves. He's had a couple of re-signings, but yesterday makes the move to trade Matthew Olivier to Columbus and gets a fourth-round pick. How surprised were you by the compensation that he got back for Olivier?
I thought it was a really good return. I did. I thought it was a good move from the Predators. It just makes sense from a roster construction standpoint. I mean, if you've already got Tanner Jeannot, you've already got Jakob Trenin, you had Michael McCarron fill in nicely last year. It just didn't really seem like an ideal, usage of the lineup was having all three of those guys in there plus Matthew Olivier. So honestly, I was kind of blown away that they got a fourth-round pick back for Matthew Olivier. But I think it's good for both sides. It's a good return for the Predators. I think Olivier is going to have an opportunity to really kind of establish a role for himself at the NHL level with Columbus. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. And I think if you're the Predators and David Poile, you're pretty happy with a fourth-round pick back for Matthew Olivier.
So I have been saying for a while, and I think you agree with me. I think I've heard you say it too. I feel like Dylan David is about to return. I feel like he's got a big move in him this offseason. The question is, does it happen next week at the draft, or could we potentially see it before or just after, like we have seen in the past from him?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the draft is a really interesting night for the Predators, and we're less than a week away from that, coming up next Thursday on July the 7th. And we've seen things either happen and come to fruition at the draft, or we've seen the groundwork laid for these kind of things at the draft too. I mean, James Neal got traded for Patrick Hornquist at the draft for the Predators. Kind of the beginning stages of the PK Subban and Shea Weber trade got laid at the draft. So it's traditionally a place where, number one, David Poile's not afraid to have conversations like that. And number two, there have been some trades that have happened there for the Predators at the draft. So that's why I wonder, and I don't think it's as simple as you have to know one way or the other, but I think in a perfect world, if you're the Predators, you would really like to have Philip Forsberg one way or the other figured out by draft night, because I think a lot of things can happen that way. And I think that, it gives you some flexibility if you've got a resolution on the Forsberg situation one way or the other for you to really be aggressive come draft night. So I think that would be an ideal scenario for the Predators. We'll see whether or not it happens at this point based on today being July 1st, and that would be 6 days from now, things coming together pretty quickly with Forsberg. But I agree. I think into the Forsberg contract one way or the other.
Willie?
Robbie, there's been so much that's gone on here. The Kevin Fiala trade really intrigued me, and it got me thinking about restricted free agents. And let's, for the moment, go with plan A, that Forsberg is back, and you still have some cap space to attack the rest of the roster. I saw the Fiala trade for a first-rounder and I would say, a decent prospect, not a superstar kind of prospect. You never know. But do you think that's the way that David Poile could look at this? There's a good article in The Athletic with your colleague Joe Rexrode aboard there, and they did our man Dom Lucision, right, who's a big analytics guy. He did a long report on some restricted free agents and what it might be worth to sign somebody to an offer sheet, or if you didn't sign him an offer sheet, you could still try to work a trade like LA did with Fiala. Do you like that idea in principle?
I really do, because, Willie, I like the free agent class in terms of the unrestricted free agent. Like, I think there are some good names out there. Also, when you get to free agency, you're dealing with older players at that point, right? So you got Forsberg, who's 27. He's right in the prime of his career. There are other guys like that are 27, 28, 29 years old. But, you got guys like Nazem Kadri out there that are 31, will be 32 coming up in the fall. And there are teams talking about, rumors of him getting a 7-year deal. Like, I'm not giving Nazem Kadri a 7 that maybe are not quite as proven at that point, but you can get cheaper and that you could potentially have around your team longer. So I think probably in a perfect world, that's what David Poile would rather do, is via trade, maybe go after somebody like that. David Poile has not typically been someone who spends a whole lot of time, really wading into the waters of unrestricted free agency. They got Matt Duchene a couple of years ago. Other than that, they really traditionally haven't been huge players in getting into those markets on unrestricted free agents on the first day of free agency. So I think if David Poile had his druthers, that's probably the way he would rather go about doing things.
And I think we've seen David Poile and listened to him long enough to know that he probably does not like doing the offer sheet thing. He certainly didn't like being on the other end of it when Shea Weber signed the one with the Flyers. So I would think if you're going to do it, you would probably propose a trade rather than try to make the move of signing a guy to the offer sheet. But it was interesting to sort of take a look at the chart. For example, if you offer a guy, I think the threshold is something like $10 million per year. It would cost you 4 first-round picks straight up to make that deal. But, there's like $6 million is a first and a third or something like that. If you take a look at it, the argument that Don Lucian makes as the analytics guy is that a player of that caliber, like a Matthew Tkachuk or maybe a Pierre-Luc Dubois, somebody like that, is well worth the compensation. He said that Tkachuk was well worth 4 first-round picks. Now, and, of course, a salary of about $10 or $11 million a year. That's an interesting debate to have, but very, very eye-opening when you take a look at it.
Yeah, no question. And, Tkachuk, I think I would probably agree, is probably worth that, because he's kind of that, in today's NHL, that perfect balance of a player that just drives you absolutely nuts and plays on the line, in some cases over the line, but is also incredibly gifted offensively. Like, he's, to me, almost the perfect power forward in today's NHL. So I would agree with the Tkachuk part of this. Willie, the Dubois situation is really interesting to me, because he's not an unrestricted free agent until, I believe, 2024, and he's basically already told the Jets, hey, guys, just so you know, in a couple of years, I'm not coming back. Like, I will be an unrestricted free agent. So I'm really interested to see how that part of it plays out because, like, if you're the Jets, I would assume you want to get some compensation back for him, and capitalize on that as much as you can. So the offer sheet part of it is interesting. Traditionally, not only just David Poyle, but most general managers in the league, they don't like to do that because they hate to imagine what life would be like on the other side of that. I mean, I think Aho was an example recently of Carolina kind of stepping up to the table and matching it from Montreal there. But it's really interesting to see how that really hasn't been a factor in the NHL over the last few years. I am interested with the cap being what it is and with salary cap positioning just being such a luxury in today's NHL, whether or not somebody tries to go that route this offseason, because it's not something we typically see.
Yeah, and I think that cap number, by most people's accounts, people feel like the cap will go up in a couple of years. It may not go up a lot next year, but the league just announced highest revenues ever, right? As a league, that's a really good sign, but the players are still playing catch up with the escrow and things like that. So it may be another year, but someday you are going to get more space to put another big salary or two in there. But so I think that illustrates that now might be the time to use the flexibility that the Predators have, not spending the cap last year and having some space, trying to take advantage of teams that have to get by, who are right up against it for the next couple of years. So with that in mind, Robbie, would you shop the first-round pick? If you're David Poyle, would you be willing to trade your first-round pick on draft day if it made an immediate impact on the roster?
100%. I absolutely would be willing to do that. You know, you essentially I think they've done a pretty decent job of kind of restocking the cupboard. You know, for years, Willie, back in 16, 17, 18, when they were going for it, their cupboard was pretty bare. I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of prospects that you felt good about moving forward. And maybe they don't have that top-level guy right now. We'll see. I mean, Luke Evangelista, I thought was sensational last year. They had a couple of first-round picks from a year ago, LaRue, that I'm really interested to see, kind of how that part of it plays out. But I think that for the most part, they've done a really good job of restocking the cupboard. If I'm the Predators, I'm absolutely open to dealing that first-round pick and getting some immediate help. Like, to me, and I know we've talked about this a couple of times, like, you've got Roman Josi in the prime of his career right now. If you re-sign Forsberg, you've got him in the prime of his career. Johansson, Duchesne, like, the list goes on and on. I'm not saying that you need to just totally go for it and be reckless, but I do think there's a window here with your current core that you want to try to capitalize on if you can, if you're David Poyle. So I'm totally open, if I'm the Predators, to using my first-round pick this year, maybe as a negotiating chip or a trade piece to bring in somebody that can help you immediately.
Robbie,
I know Chase has got one more here for you, Robbie. Let me sneak one more in, a quick one. What are your realistic expectations for Cody Glass next year?
My expectations for him to make the team out of camp and to stick. I think he had a really good year in Milwaukee. I think he's shown that he is above an AHL level player. But, Willie, we've seen this sometimes where you run into those tweener situations. Like a guy like Cal O'Reilly comes to mind going way back where he just lit it up in the American Hockey League. And he got to the NHL level, and it just wasn't quite there. I still wonder, as I look at this roster, like, where exactly is the opportunity for him? If Granlund's your first or second line center and Johansson's your other center in this equation, like, how exactly does Cody Glass fit in there and you feel good about the Herd line? Like, I still think the roster is a bit of a weird situation for him because I don't think playing him at fourth line on the center position really does a whole lot of good. And I think we saw that toward the end of the last year. So I think he's going to make the team. I think they may have to experiment either moving somebody else away from center or experiment playing him on the wing and seeing what that looks like. But he's a guy where you can see the talent is there, the ability is there. Now, can he put it together at the NHL level? Because so far in his career, not only just with the Predators, but with Vegas as well, it's basically been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And some of that's been his fault. Some of it has been the situation that he's found himself in. But he needs to be a guy that makes the team out of camp next year. Otherwise, I've got real questions as to what he's going to be as they move forward.
All right, Robbie, real quick. I said yesterday that I believe that either Luke Cunnin or Ellie Tolvanen, one of them will not be on the team next year. Do you agree with that? Or could you see a scenario where they're both gone or they're both back?
If I had to guess, I would lean that they're both back. And the only reason I say that is because I just don't really know what the trade value is for either one of them. Now having said that, we've gotten a lot of people text into us talking about trading Ellie Tolvanen. I don't think his value is high, but I will say this: Tolvanen could be the type of trade piece that, in the construction of a bigger deal, if you're throwing in Ellie Tolvanen along with it, maybe that's the way that it goes about. Maybe being a part of a trade package. But on the surface itself, I don't think that either one of them have trade value that's all that high at the moment. So because of that, my guess is both of them are back on the roster next year. Hopefully, neither one of them starting off the year in a top 6 role.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Robbie, great stuff as always. Have a great 4th of July weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate the time.
Robbie Stanley, one half of Robbie and Rex Road. You can hear him mornings 6 to 10 on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Another NHL coach has been shown the door. We will tell you about that coming up next. And also, I want to hit on a few things that he was just talking about